So much has changed with email deliverability this year, and you might see that as an opportunity to sell a one-off service to prospects or clients. But what if I told you it's also an opportunity to improve retention and customer service to your existing clients? That's what my special guest is here to talk about today. Hey, I'm Paul Green, and don't forget, for all the content, tools and training to market and grow your MSP, check out mspmarketingedge.com. Today's big interview is about the business opportunity around email deliverability.
Hi, I'm Ben Fielding, and I'm an email delivery expert.
And thanks so much for joining me on the show, Ben. Now, we're not going to talk about email deliverability from a technical point of view, although I know you've got a few technical things to say. We're actually going to look today at how email deliverability is an opportunity to delight your clients and increase the levels of customer service that you've got for them, as well as being obviously a tool to protect them from huge amounts of spam. Before we get into that, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background? So who are you, where have you come from, and what do you do?
Sure. I started off life as a graphic designer many years ago. Wasn't particularly great at it, but fell into IT. I'm not going to say how many years ago. Skip forward 15, 20 years of a corporate career. Set up an MSP 10 years ago. I got out of that business September last year, and I've been focusing on delivering fractional CTO services and email deliverability services as well, and work with some MSPs.
And what is it about email deliverability that interests you?
I've always been a messaging geek, from Novell Groupwise, if anyone remembers that, through to Lotus Notes. I've done a bit of Zimbra through there as well, old Exchange days. And then, as Microsoft Exchange has grown up to 365 and Google Workspace has come out, I've always been into messaging, but it's just the security side of it and the deliverability side of it it's just something that clicked with me, and something that I've always had people come to me and say, I've tried everything. Ben, can you look at this, and just have this kind of like sixth sense of looking at it, I think it's that, and then proving it is.
That's really cool. I remember Lotus Notes, actually. I used to work for a big radio group, and the email that they used sort of late 90s, early noughties was Lotus Notes. And I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it certainly seemed a lot harder than it is today with Gmail and Outlook and stuff like that. Is that even still around anymore, Lotus Notes?
I'm sure someone's running it somewhere.
Yes, probably. Unsupported. Hasn't been updated since 2002, probably. But it'll be fine. That's not a security risk at all. So let's talk about, there's been a lot of changes this year, hasn't there? So Yahoo and Google brought in a series of changes earlier this year. I think it was around about April time. And I know most MSPs are going to be on top of that. But just to make sure that everyone is completely aware of what's happened, can you give us like a 60-second summary of some of the security changes that have happened this year?
Sure. So the three things everyone's been talking about have been SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Again, not going to bore everyone with the technical details. They should know it. If not, Google it. Now, they've been around for a long, long, long time. What's changed this year has been Microsoft very quietly, Google very publicly saying, we've had enough. These standards have been around for years. We need to start seeing you adhere to these standards. So that's what's changed, is their posture as opposed to the technology.
Got it. So essentially, a lot of end users, a lot of end clients will have been affected by this without being aware, especially if, as you say, Microsoft did that quietly in the background. So you, as an email deliverability expert, and remember, we're looking at this from a point of view of how MSPs can improve and increase their relationship with their clients. What's your advice to MSPs on how to, a few months on from those changes, how best to use them to work with clients and to make email easier for them rather than harder?
So I'll start off with what MSPs have done really well. What MSPs have done well is to tune into the fact that this is happening, to be speaking to their clients about it and start making changes. So I've seen quite a few MSPs been rolling out DMARC monitoring tools, or at the very least, they've gone in and set some basic DMARC settings that have done something, right? They're on that journey. So that's been going quite well. The problem I see is that MSPs have generally see this as see DMARC especially as a security feature. And that's been the selling point to a lot of clients. We need to make your email secure. We need to enable DMARC, and this is what we're going to do. Now, this is on the MSPs, assuming they know all the platforms that their clients email from. And if you're managing it, then you know about it. Great. But what if you're not managing it? Some add-on email marketing tool that the marketing team set up 3 years ago. By going in and enforcing DMARC, MSPs are actually causing their clients problems because they're not reviewing the results of those DMARC reports in detail with their clients, they're just looking at it and going, 365 is delivering. I know about that. Your CRM is delivering. I know about that. Everything else is being blocked. It's doing its job.
And of course, the downside of that is that while you can sit there and look at the things that you're aware of and say, yep, we're doing a good job, we're protecting our clients, the clients, meantime, are getting frustrated because this is falling over and that's falling over things that you didn't know about. So what do you think is a better way of approaching that?
It's analysing the data from a good DMARC reporting tool. So it's not just about turning on DMARC and setting it to quarantine or reject. And it's definitely not about setting the email addresses just to be an alias address in the client's 365, which I see quite a lot. It's actually setting up a DMARC monitoring service. There's loads out there, and analysing that data coming through, going, okay, well, what can we see passing? What can we see failing? Do we know about this? There's quite a high volume there. That must be something you're doing deliberately. Could be the website, could be a timesheet system. It could be an accounting package. It could be email outreach. It could be 365. It could be the website itself or some third-party app that's been deployed. It's going through and making conscious decisions about that. But you've got to have your technical head looking at this, and then the client's view of the world, and go, yeah, actually, I do recall something about a SendGrid service. I wonder what that is. But it changes the relationship from being a techie, a tech provided tech support relationship to being hey, let's make sure your business is running as well as it could be. And let's make sure we're getting this right. Because the downsides of not doing that and then starting to block a lot of these valid emails is you could start to impact the reputation of your customer's domain.
Yeah, and not only that, of course, as we were saying, the customer is unhappy because they're getting bounce backs of emails, or that service that used to work just fine suddenly hasn't started working. We know that when someone is unhappy with their MSP, that's when they start to look at the contract end coming up, and it just kind of enters their head of maybe we should look somewhere else. Maybe we've outgrown that MSP, or maybe they're not quite right for us. Whereas obviously the flip side and what you're suggesting is where you actually work with them and essentially have that partnership. I mean, isn't that what all MSPs promise and say that they want? Yep. I know every vendor in the channel says, oh, you're going to be our partner. The reality is very few vendors actually act that way, and very few MSPs act that way as well. But this is a true partnership where you're actually getting, and I guess is this difficult, this kind of level of service, jumping in and taking the time to look at reports and what's happening, is that difficult, but it's the kind of difficulty that's worth it?
So if you imagine MSPs, many MSPs resell VoIP services, phone systems, phone numbers, right? Now, if that service, for whatever reason, doesn't work, if that mainline number goes down and inbound calls aren't coming in, or outbound calls are showing the wrong phone number or not being able to connect through, pretty damn sure the customers will be jumping up and down straight away going, my phone system's not working. And it's really obvious. It's black and white. I can't make or receive a call. Yes, I see a problem. Let's fix it. Thing is, phone numbers are becoming less and less relevant in business today. And that email domain that's probably hopefully had a great reputation for many, many years, that is the lifeblood of their business. Their website is, they're putting a lot of effort into SEO, content marketing, I'm sure, trying to generate traffic online. That domain is littered everywhere, and all various email campaigns and email outreach and day-to-day interactions going on. If you take down a company's email address or take down their domain or affect the reputation, that's worse than taking their phone number offline nowadays. Most businesses could survive without a phone number for a day or two even. They can't survive without email. No one can.
No, absolutely they can't. And I think email is as important to businesses today as it was 10, 20 years ago, even with the rise of tools like Teams and Slack and every other collaborative project management, instant communication tool. Let's be honest, email still sits at the heart of it. No one asks you to enter your Slack ID or your, something on Teams when you set up a new account. It's always email and some kind of security from there. Final question for you, Ben, is, and this is to prevent my team having to answer the same question 20 times, which is, you mentioned about a DMARC monitoring service. Whenever we have someone on the podcast who talks about something but doesn't suggest a specific service, we always get emails afterwards. So you're the expert at email deliverability. Which of the many DMARC services would you recommend, or do you think are at least worth looking at?
Well, the first one I'm going to suggest is obviously mine. So Quinset Power Mail, which you can find quinset.co.uk/Power Mail. I love this platform. I've tuned it to perfection, worked really close with the dev team to make sure it provides everything you need beyond DMARC. It also does all the other geeky stuff that some of the guys out there will know, like BIMI and MTA, STS and TLS reporting. Demarcation is another really, really good one. I mean, the company was set up by one of the guys that designed the DMARC standard, so it's got to be pretty good. Power DMARC's pretty good as well. And there's a handful of cheaper ones which kind of do the job. There's a good generalist one called Glock Apps, is pretty good. A lot of people use Valley Mail. Gets quite expensive quite quickly. But yeah, there's a handful out there.
That's fantastic. And I thoroughly talked myself into giving you a massive free plug there, didn't I? So well done, Paul. Well done, Paul. Very good. Let's finish off then, Ben, just by telling us, well, obviously we know that you've got that service. Just tell us what else you do to help MSPs and what's the best way to get in touch with you.
I help MSPs in a number of ways. Primarily it's education. So it's teaching people about SPF, DKIM, DMARC, all the other acronyms that people have probably never touched before, helping them with some tips and tricks on how to resolve issues, how to find issues, interpreting DMARC reports, and also looking back at things like DNS history, trying to figure out what's gone wrong, teaching them to be a Sherlock Holmes of resolving DNS and email deliverability problems, essentially. Best way to get hold of me, if you go to my website, quinset.co.uk, or you can find me on LinkedIn /Ben Fielding.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.